the number to call. But I want to speak to Erol Morkoc now, who is a spokesman for Republicans overseas. I wanted to get a bit more analysis on the American side of things. We heard a little bit earlier on from Marco Rubio, and I'm delighted that Erol is with me now. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Erol, just in regard to Iran, where is the Republican Party on this? How split is it? Because we have the MAGA side, to some degree, perhaps, and tell me if I'm wrong, worried about this foreign war. We have others who might be more welcoming of it, people like Marco Rubio and others in Congress. And of course we have the Democratic reaction too. There's so many issues though as well, because Trump appears anyway to have changed his mind about things like regime change. The message hasn't been a consistent one. Just take me through the last 4 days from your perspective and how this is essentially playing out politically.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there, because it is a ideologically divided party before we even got to the last 96 hours. And now, let's say the cards are revealed and the chips are on the table. And I would have to say that it's a little bit more split than 50-50. Inside of the MAGA wing, you have people like myself who are rational people who believe in things like, tactical strikes. Trump was always very dovish on invasions, but very hawkish on missile strikes, i.e. Qasem Soleimani or other examples like that. So the way that Trump intervenes is very important for how the internal Republican Party responds to it. There are people, of course, who said no foreign wars, no entanglements. This is a complete betrayal. And in some respects, I would have to point them to the campaign speeches where Donald Trump said, we will bomb the blank out of them if they try to do this and that. So Donald Trump also, and just for everybody to understand, it's very interesting because he wasn't traditionally a MAGA person. He was an establishment person, almost an American aristocrat who took over a movement of outsiders, and he was turned into an outsider. And in this situation, I think some people forgot that he is in many ways part of the establishment. He's from a generation that had a problem with Iran. The 1979 embassy takeover, those people still remember that. And that battle never really ended for them. So I think in this situation, in the context of it, he hasn't lost the support of the majority of the Republican people. However, in the MAGA wing, the people who are already fracturing against him vis-a-vis his support for Israel, or the sort of idea that he is a Bibi Netanyahu's puppet, this is sort of their evidence to say, haha, we've got him. But in the end, I think that we have a big tent with varying opinions, and that's healthy. I'm very happy to see somebody like Tucker Carlson out there pushing against the president. I'm very happy to see people who are in our party coming out and being on the other side, whether that's Thomas Massey.
And Erol, those are the Western democratic values of free speech that we have, right. You have in America, we have in the UK, and Iran does not have. So I totally agree with you on that. What does Congress do now, do you think?
Well, they're in a rock and a hard place, because they need to obviously respect the situation at hand, which is Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon, and Donald Trump has sort of laid the hammer down on that. Now he has about the 90 days of executive authority privilege in terms of this operation, but we do need Congress to codify some of the funding. So I think the internal battle is going to also play more to the domestic midterms than anybody on the ground should have to hear, because people's lives are at stake in Tehran right now, and the idea that Congress is going to fund or not fund things that are going to have an impact on those people's ability to conduct an internal revolution, to rebuild their country, that would be a shame if the reason they're doing it for is for funding for roads in Cincinnati. So I think we really, really need to look at Congress, and people need to be contacting the representatives, because if the American legislature isn't behind this, it will eventually run into more and more of a situation where they scream no kings, but we sort of ironically are saying that Donald Trump has to go around the world and clean up foreign problems because Congress isn't letting him do anything in the United States. So I think that's sort of the crux of the issue. They're a dysfunctional body, and they have yet to prove themselves worthy of a compliment.
Eric, speaking of compliments, or indeed lack of them, let's hear what President Trump said about our Prime Minister here in the UK, Keir Starmer. Not exactly complimentary.
And I'm not, by the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. That island that you read about, the lease, okay, he made it, for whatever reason, he made a lease of the island. Somebody came and took it away from him. And it's taken 3-4 days for us to work out where we can land there. It would have been much more convenient landing there as opposed to flying many extra hours. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Remove your car scratches in 60 seconds or get your money back. Look, no cut, no Photoshop.
This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with. I mean, I've spoken to a number of people actually over the course of the programme who have reacted to this clip, and there's sort of a lack of surprise here. This has been coming for a while, hasn't it? Because there have been various things the Republicans have done. We know that Donald Trump erred on various occasions, saying that, specifically with Afghanistan, saying that British troops weren't near the front line, which was a really, really stupid and horrible and thoughtless and careless thing to say. But nonetheless, Starmer and Trump need to be singing from the same hymn sheet. They're not on this conflict, but here we are in public with the American president saying that. What do you think, Erol?
You know, it's a very tough situation, because when you look at what's at hand, you have the Chagos Islands, which is sort of the functional, problem here. And if the British Empire ended up going under the wing of the new emerging American empire, it seems bizarre for them to be working against us in certain small interests. And these kind of behaviors, Trump waffled on that, by the way. He said, fine, give it to them, take it back. And then eventually I think he's so sick and tired of dealing with these inept political leaders and feckless cowards that he sees compared to the Winston Churchill that he idolizes, that he has a bust of in the Oval Office. And he's wondering what on earth has happened to the Anglo-American alliance and the special relationship we had. And I think that is a huge problem, because Great Britain needs to be a leader with us. And regardless of Trump's maybe insensitive comments, which I agree with what you said was completely inappropriate that he had done that and he walked it back, but that doesn't mean that England can't step up into this new era. And I think perhaps it's going to just end up being a situation of regime change in Westminster or Downing Street, I guess, excuse me, because it seems like Keir Starmer's not somebody we can work with, and he's not somebody who seems to be willing to join us in our mission. Whereas we find leaders around the world who are much more amicable to what we're doing.
And perhaps in this country as well, I would imagine Donald Trump would rather work with Nigel Farage than Keir Starmer, possibly even Kemi Badenoch as well. We're in a weird situation where we have the Green Party now in one poll as the second party too. When it comes back to American politics, when it comes back to what America does next, they're in this for the long haul, aren't they?
Yeah, the Americans are in it for the long haul, and I think one of the problems we have with our two countries is we seem to be discorrelating our elections. We go right, you guys go left. We swing back, you guys swing back, and so we're not able to really coordinate this, and it's leading to these problems. And unless there's going to be someone domestically in the UK who stands up and sort of changes this, I foresee perhaps the United States finding other partners that are willing to step up and step in.
Always good to talk to you, Erol Morkoc. Thank you. He is from Republicans Overseas, one of their spokesmen. What do you think of what he said?